Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Nija Seva Kadara Karan Jivaru Dijuta Hitahu Krita Singhavaram. Nija Seva Kadara Karan Jivaru Dijuta Hitahu Krita Singhavaram. Varnagata Balisha Santa Param. Varnagata Balisha Santa Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Vituri Krittavai Baba Gora Bhuva Bhuvaneshu Vikirtita Gora Dayam. Vituri Krittavai Baba Gora Bhuva Bhuvaneshu Vikirtita Gora Dayam. Dayaniya Ganapita Gora Param. Dayaniya Ganapita Gora Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Kiragora Janashaya Vishnu Guru Guru Gora Kishora Kadasya Param. Kiragora Janashaya Vishnu Guru Guru Gora Kishora Kadasya Param. Paramagita Bhakti Vinora Param. Paramagita Bhakti Vinora Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Prabhupada Sanatana Kirtikaram. Tarani Tara Kirtika Jiva Karam. Prabhupada Sanatana Kirtikaram. Tarani Tara Kirtika Jiva Karam. Kaviraja Narottama Sakya Param. Kaviraja Narottama Sakya Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Kripaya Kirtana Murti Garam. Dharani Varahara Gora Janam. Kripaya Kirtana Murti Garam. Dharani Varahara Gora Janam. Ganagatika Vatsala Shinda Param. Ganagatika Vatsala Shinda Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Sharanagata Kinkara Kalpataru. Karani Kritagira Vaganjavaram. Sharanagata Kinkara Kalpataru. Karani Kritagira Vaganjavaram. Varadendra Ganarjita Divya Param. Varadendra Ganarjita Divya Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Parahamsa Varam Parapartapatim Patito Dharane Kritaresha Yati. Parahamsa Varam Parapartapatim Patito Dharane Kritaresha Yati. Yati Raja Kanai Parisevya Param. Yati Raja Kanai Parisevya Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Param. Rishabhanu Sukha Daikam Charam Chara Shri Kare Gudare Sama Krishna Bhanu Sutta Jai Kanu Charam Charata Shri Kare Gudare Sama Bharatu Japavina Shakti Param Bharatu Japavina Shakti Param Pranamami Sara Prabhupada Param Pranamami Sara Prabhupada Param Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Jaya Bhakti Siddanta 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 Jaya Bhakti Siddanta. Right. We read the translation. I'll first start. His lotus feet are served in devotion by multitudes of high virtuous souls. He is the establisher of the religion of the age. He is the presiding monarch of the Vishnu Vaishnava Raja Sabha, the universal society of pure devotees, kings or guides of all, and he is the fulfiller of the most cherished desires of those who dispel fear for all souls. I make my obeisances unto the lotus feet of that illustrious great soul, worshipable by one and all. Perpetually do I make my obeisances unto the radiance emanating from the toenails of the holy feet of my Lord.
He is the leader of the fortunate souls, blessed with the treasure of eternal pure devotion. He is greatly merciful upon the fallen souls, being their only shelter, and his inconceivable holy feet are the shelter for the deceivers by deceiving them. I make my obeisances unto his lotus feet perpetually. Do I make my obeisances unto the radiance emanated from the toenails of the holy feet of my Lord.
I make my obeisance unto his divine, charming, yet commanding lofty form of golden hue. That beautiful figure shames the mad ecstasy of golden lotus stems, venerated by tens of millions of cupids, the moons of the toenails of my worshipful divine master, reveal the beauty of his lotus feet. Perpetually do I make my obeisance unto that effulgence emanating from the toenails of the holy feet of my Lord.
Like the moon that delights the stars, he is surrounded by the circle of personal servitors, making their hearts bloom in divine ecstasy. The malicious non-devotees are made to flee in panic by the sound of his thunderous roar, and the simple, inoffensive souls attain the ultimate fortune by accepting his lotus feet. I make my obeisance unto him. Perpetually do I make my obeisance unto the brilliance emanating from the toenails of the holy lotus feet of my Lord.
He has revealed the vast, magnificent beauty of Sri Gauranga. He has broadcast the tidings of the supreme magnanimity of Sri Gauranga throughout the whole universe, and in the hearts of the fit recipients of his grace, he has firmly established the lotus feet of Sri Gauranga. I make my obeisances unto him. Perpetually do I make my obeisance unto the effulgence emanating from the toenails of the holy feet of my Lord.
He is the eternal shelter and the universal guru for the soul surrendered unto Sri Gauranga, absorbed in the service of his Gurudev, Sri Gauranga. He wholeheartedly adore Sri Bhakti Thakur and make my obeisances unto him. Perpetually do I make my obeisances unto the effulgence emanating from the toenails of the holy feet of my Lord.
Is the illustrious personality to raise the flag that sings the glory of Sri Sanatana and Sri Raghunath. His glory is sung throughout the world is none different from the powerful personality and brilliant erudition of Sri Jiva. And he has won the renown of being one with the hearts of Sri Krishna Dasa Kaviraj and Thakur Narottam. I make my obeisances unto him, perpetually do I bow down to the brilliance emanating from the toenails of the holy feet of my divine master.
Bestowing his grace upon all souls, he is Hari Kirtan incarnate. As the associate of Sri Gora, he relieves Mother Earth of the burden of offenses committed upon her. And he is so gracious that his endurance of all beings excels that of even a father. I make my obeisance unto him. The mine of all these qualities, perpetually do I bow down to the effulgence emanating from the toenails of the holy feet of my divine master.
Like a wish-fulfilling tree for his surrendered servitors, he fulfills their heart's aspiration. Even a tree is shamed by his magnanimity and forbearance, and great personalities who are competent to confer boons. They too worship his lotus feet. I make my obeisances unto him. Perpetually do I bow down to the radiance emanating from the toenails of the holy feet of my divine master.
Crown jewel of the Paramahamsas, the prince of the treasure of the supreme perfection of life. Sri Krishna Prema, he accepted the robes of a mendicant sannyasi just to deliver the fallen souls. The topmost Sri Dandi sannyasi attend his lotus feet. I make my obeisances under him. Perpetually do I bow down to the effulgence emanating from the toenails of the holy lotus feet of my divine master.
Altogether, he is the dear, most intimate follower of the divine daughter of Sri Vrishabhanu, and I know myself as the most fortunate by taking the dust of his holy feet upon my head. I make my obeisances unto his invincible, wondrously purifying lotus feet. Perpetually do I bow down to the brilliance emanating from the toenails of the holy feet of my divine master. Srila Bhakti Siddanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki. There's a folder over there. You can put these back in there. I printed these out 2 years ago. So that's a beautiful bhajan. That's by Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, Bhakti Raksha Sridhar Maharaj. And so that always brings tears to my eyes. So beautiful bhajan. So once again, somehow or another, Friday is my day, and I'm once again blessed to give class on the appearance of a great personality. I don't know how this is happening. Oh, today, okay, we'll do 15 and 15 today, but it might be the last day I try that. No guarantees on getting them all. So thank you all very much. Once again, I'm completely unworthy to give class on Bhakti Siddanta Saraswati, but he is my favorite acharya in recent times, besides our Prabhupada, of course. So I'm really inspired by him, so I'm thankful for the opportunity. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namane Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripadaya Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jwala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigraya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murte Dinatane Rupanuga Virupa Siddhanta Dvante Harine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharya Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Pastuta Deshatadare Namaste Jivanandaya Dasaya Vanacharine Prabhupada Vallabhaya Sninasi Lavanogne Agyana Dvanta Gavanam Pashtuta Patitatmanam Gyana Gurute Achitarine Chakshashenama. So, feel known to myself unworthy. The most spiritual dream I ever had, I saw Bhakti Siddhanta, so I've always been very inspired by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. And we can speak a little about him. In regards to our Srila Prabhupada, in regards to his birth and appearance, in regards to his teachings. It's truly unlimited. The glories of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. So, in one lecture, Srila Prabhupada, one morning walk, Prabhupada defined an advanced soul, as quoted a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, wherein he defined an advanced soul as someone who is always absorbed in trying to spread Krishna consciousness in pursuance of the order of the founding of the acharyas, following the footsteps of the acharyas. So following the footsteps of our acharya, Srila Prabhupada, I'd like to speak a little bit about how he spoke on the appearance of his guru. And Prabhupada always made the point on the appearance day of his guru. Most of his talks in regards to this day were about the importance of following the order of the spiritual master and what that means, what that genuinely means. There's actually only one order from the spiritual master, and that spiritual master is Krishna. Guru is one, and that order is to spread Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada expressed many times that we should tax our minds. We should be fully absorbed in trying to spread Krishna consciousness. If we're not thinking like that, we're not going to get a lot of mercy. We really won't. All of the mercy that I've received in my life has simply been because I've tried to follow the order of my guru, who's following the order of his guru, who's following the order of his guru. This is the process of Krishna consciousness. Evam parampara praptam imam rajasarovidu sakalenaha mataha mahata yogo nasta parantapaha. This knowledge is coming into cyclic succession. And so it's not just the knowledge, it's the process and the means by which one attains that knowledge. And the means by which one attains that knowledge is the spreading of that knowledge itself. That's the beauty of Lord Gauranga's movement. That spreading that knowledge itself is the means by which it's attained. So we have to take part and participate wholeheartedly in the Sankirtan movement. We should never sit idle in terms of this process of spreading Krishna consciousness. So we'll speak a little about Bhakti Siddhanta's life, his birth, and then we'll speak some more things in regard to how Prabhupada saw and presented this message. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta appeared on February the 7th or February the 6th. There's two different dates around that time, 1874, and was named Bimal Prasad Dutt. He is, of course, the son of His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his wife Bhagavati Devi. And we understand that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta appeared as an answer to a prayer, to a plea of Bhaktivinoda Thakur to send such a personality to help him in the process of spreading Krishna consciousness all around the world. We can think sometimes that I want to spread Krishna consciousness all on my own. I want to be the preacher, I want to be the book distributor, I want to be the pujari or whatever, whatnot. But it is a group effort. And so if we have this kind of conception that I want the glory or I want to be the big preacher, then we're not going to be able to spread Krishna consciousness. We should always enlist other souls. And Srila Prabhupada is such an exemplary person in that regard. Prabhupada was bringing so many great souls to this movement, qualified individuals. Even though they were young men, they were so qualified. And I think about, the devotees, they did so many things. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Brahmananda. Also, Prabhupada even was bringing on, Sarabi, this amazing architect, building these temples. Such amazing personalities appeared in Srila Prabhupada's entourage to spread Krishna consciousness. Satsarup Maharaj, what an author, an incredible author. There's so many wonderful devotees of immense intellect and ability that Prabhupada was able to bring and engage in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and in the service of his Guru Maharaj. So it is a group endeavor. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur in that spirit was begging Krishna to send him an assistant in the process of spreading this movement all around, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a huge proponent of Krishna consciousness in that he defeated many of the Aprasampradayas, the Baulas and so forth, so many different Aprasampradayas, Gauranga. There's so many different Aprasampradayas that had come up in regards to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So at that time, Gaudiya Vaishnavism was seen as a religion of degenerates due to these Aprasampradayas, due to those who are not genuinely following the footsteps of Rupa Raghunath and who are presenting Krishna consciousness or the process of loving Krishna in a way that's degraded, usually in regards to Krishna and the gopis and women and so forth. So in this way, those people of the world who were of intelligence saw the Krishna consciousness movement as a degraded movement. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur, with his immense intellect and immense empowerment, reestablished Gaudiya Vaishnavism as the topmost philosophy and topmost theology amongst all other theologies, without any doubt. You can read the Chaitanya Charitamrita and prove it to yourself. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is smarter than all of us combined, he was leaning toward Christianity in his youth because he was feeling this Hindu thing wasn't really making much sense. But when he read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it completely changed him. He became fully convinced that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God and that Krishna is God. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela does great service in establishing Krishna's position theologically as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and no other, Ekala Ishvara Krishna. And in doing so, establishes that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Krishna are the same being, and therefore they are equal, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God himself. So in this way, Bhaktivinoda Thakur became convinced. And in that becoming convinced, he made it his life's work to spread this mercy which he received all around the world. And for that, he required an assistant, and Krishna responded by sending forth the great and illustrious, powerful spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. And this is not a normal birth. This is not a normal personality. These two, when such a person as Bhaktivinoda Thakur has a child such as Bhakti Siddanta Saraswati, this is a leela. This is an eternal leela. In the Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhav by His Holiness Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, the point is made that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the eternal father of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. This is their leela. So we have all heard the story, but it's worth telling millions of times of how the great Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he appeared in Jagannath Puri Dham. And at that time, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was acting as an administrator and a government official. And so during the time of the Rath Yatra, as Lord Jagannath tends to do, sometimes he decides to stop and to not move. And in doing so, he decided to stop outside of the home of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Lord Jagannath would not move for days. He would not move for days. And so being that Bhagavati Devi was the wife of a high-level government official such as Bhaktivinoda Thakur, she brought her young child, Bimal Prasad, out to the cart and placed the child on the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath. And as the child was placed upon the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath, a garland fell from the body of Lord Jagannath onto the body of Bimal Prasad Datta, signifying and solidifying that this was not a normal child, this was a ray of Vishnu, a great soul. And it's understood that when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was born, his umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck like a Brahmin thread, and it left a birthmark, signifying his Brahminical nature. And there's one other famous young childhood pastime of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in which it's described that both Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhagavati Devi were very strict Vaishnavas, and Bhagavati Devi would not eat anything that was not prasad, only that which was offered to Krishna. And at one point, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he went out to the market, and in going out to the market, he purchased some mangoes. And those mangoes he brought home, and when he brought them home, young Bimal Prasad Datta saw these mangoes and thought, this is tasty, and so he took a mango and ate it, but was mildly admonished by his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, for eating that which was not offered to Krishna. And in doing so, he felt himself so guilty and so offensive, he took a vow right there at 4 years old that I will never touch mango again, and he never touched mango again for the remainder of his life. So thinking about all the times I've eaten non-prasad really shows you where we're at. You know, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur right then admonished himself for eating that which was not offered to Krishna first. So this was not a normal personality, a highly advanced spiritual personality. So much so that he was learning the scriptures in the Bhagavad Gita. By age 7, he had the Bhagavad Gita memorized, was giving lectures on Bhagavad Gita at age 7, and was an avid reader of his father's books, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's books. You can say that he was an intellectual prodigy. And from personalities that I've studied, intellectual people in this world we see today, I've yet to find any person who can even come close to the descriptions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. I don't know any personality that can come close to the intellectual accomplishments of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. What to speak of the spiritual accomplishments? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was a Shrutidar. He remembered every single thing he ever saw, which there are people like that in the world, but it's very rare. But those people are not spiritual personalities either. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was intellectual prodigy. And upon growing up, he began to learn very young the process of printing. He used to assist his father in the printing of various periodicals, and his father early on engaged him in editing periodicals and articles about Krishna consciousness and the movement of Lord Chaitanya. So from a very young age, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was engaged in this service of spreading Krishna consciousness, but was also very, of course, erudite and successful in his personal studies. And it's described that at the age of 18 or so, he took a vow of lifelong celibacy with some other boys who were practicing and were learning various types of intellectual arts. But he was the only one who kept that vow of celibacy. So we see a theme in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, how he actually really kept his word. He was a genuine Brahmin. What he said was in stone. Nothing would ever change that. So he took this vow of celibacy at a very young age. And in time, he began to, he got a job as a scholar. He got a job, and in that job, one of the things he did was he accepted the role as an editor at the Ranjan Narka for the Rajaran Nakara, a biography of the Tripura Kingdom's royal line. So he was also very educated in that regard. He used to educate the royal family members. He was actually a teacher for the royal family members. In this way, he played a role as an educator. And it's described that they had a giant library in this royal family's home, and he actually read every single book in that library, and while educating. And he grew, in various kind of political activities he was doing, inspecting the palace and living in the palace and so forth. But he grew disillusioned. He was feeling that there was some such corruption. So he retired from that service, but he was given a pension. But due to his natural renunciation, he renounced that pension after 3 years and began to accompany his father and assist his father on various pilgrimages and, activities in which spreading of Krishna consciousness was happening. So we know the story, of course, that at a certain time, upon seeing his son's dedication to spirituality and his desire to serve Lord Chaitanya, he was instructed by his father to take initiation of the great Saint Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Funny story is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he took initiation from one guru, but he took more shelter from Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. And the guru he took initiation from was not so advanced, and so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was not so favorable toward him. And at one point, Bhaktivinoda Thakur went to see his spiritual master, his Diksha Guru, with his son, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur touched the feet of his Diksha Guru. And a very young Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati chastised the Diksha Guru of his father and said, "How dare you put your feet upon my father's head? You have no idea what kind of Vaishnava you're touching with your feet." It was can you imagine that? Can you imagine your child chastising your guru? Can you imagine what that was? Telling your child telling your guru that his disciple is a far better Vaishnava than you'll ever be. That would be embarrassing. So, I mean, yeah. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was such a soul, even as a young child, that he can see his father's spiritual position, whom we understand was not just a Vaishnava, but was one of the greatest Vaishnavas of all time. So, of course, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Bimal Prasad Datta approached Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Oh, I'll go back, step back a second here. That during the time of his activities as a court astrologer and a court teacher for the royal family, he was very famous for giving a commentary and writing a translation of the Surya Siddanta, which is an amazing text that describes the universe basically as science describes it, practically the exact same way that modern science describes it, except it's an ancient text. And so because of that, he got the title Bhakti Siddhanta, or Siddhanta Saraswati. Bhakti Siddhanta came later, but he got the epithet Siddhanta Saraswati. So that's how he got that name. And then upon approaching Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj said, I won't accept disciples. I'm not accepting disciples. I am, just chanting Hare Krishna. And of course, we understand Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj used to oftentimes chant Hare Krishna by the latrine in very dirty places because he was wanting to avoid materialistic people coming near him to ask him for benedictions and boons and so forth. So Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj used to spend a lot of time in very dirty places. And he was very eccentric. He would drink out of a skull and so forth. But Bhaktisiddhanta became convinced that this is his spiritual master. So upon asking Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj for initiation and being rejected, he approached again. And at this time, Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj said, let me ask Lord Chaitanya. I'll ask Lord Chaitanya what I should do, and you come back later. And so when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came back to Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj said, I forgot to ask Lord Chaitanya, come back later. And so this kind of Leela went on for some time. And upon studying his spiritual master, he was realizing that his spiritual master took a walk, and on that walk, they crossed a bridge over the Ganges or the Jalangi. I'm assuming the Ganges. I don't see any bridges there now, so I'm wondering how that was. It's a very big bridge if it's there, but there was a bridge apparently going over the Ganges in Mayapur Dham. And at that time, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur met his spiritual master on the bridge and expressed that if you don't initiate me, my life is worthless, therefore I will jump off this bridge. And being moved by the sentiment and the devotion of his disciple, Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj initiated his spiritual child in Krishna consciousness. And he instructed him to preach the absolute truth and give up all other business. So in this way, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur took initiation from Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj. It should be noted that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is a great sadhaka. He's the greatest sadhaka of modern times. And we can all take inspiration from that. That Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur took a vow to chant 1 billion names of God. And for about 9 years, he sat in Mayapur in a small hut and chanted Hare Krishna for about 18 to 20 hours a day. And he ate a little rice, and it's described that if it would rain, which it does a lot in Mayapur in the summer, he would just take an umbrella and continue his japa. So if you ever have trouble chanting 16 rounds, remember that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur chanted basically 196 rounds a day for 10 years. Imagine that. It's amazing. So he got the name Varshabhanavi Devi from his spiritual master. So such an amazing servant of Varshabhanavi was the name of Radharani. Such an amazing personality. And there's so much contribution he did in terms of establishing the genuine Vedic conclusion. And Prabhupada also spoke a lot about this in regards to his spiritual master, because our Srila Prabhupada was criticized sometimes by his ignorant godbrothers for creating Western brahmanas, initiating Westerners into sannyas, and so forth. And our Prabhupada, in regards to speaking of his own spiritual master, much of the time would speak on the fact that his spiritual master was, of course, considered the lion guru. And he fought very much against the Mayavadis. In fact, Mayavadis would see him and they'd walk the other side of the street. But also against the caste brahmanas. Prabhupada, in one lecture, he describes how the caste brahmanas, they tried to kill Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. At different times, they tried to actually kill him because he was so powerful. So at one point, this kind of came to a peak, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur was going to go and speak on behalf of the Vaishnava philosophy that every person can become a Brahmana, and more than a Brahmana if they're a Vaishnava. But due to his health, he sent his erudite son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And so Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati went off to Midnapur, and at this Midnapur, they had a great debate. And it's described that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he began by glorifying the Brahmanas, in the Brahmanas position, puffing them up a little bit. And then he shastrically gave them the absolute truth, in which it's described that every single person can become a Brahmana. I don't know if he said this verse, but our Srila Prabhupada uses this verse very much in regard to that, wherein Lord Devahuti says, Yanamadeya Shravana Nukirtanad Yat Pravanad Yat Smarnad Api Kvachit Saropi Sadhya Sabadaya Kalpate Kutus Punaste Bhagavan Nudarshanat. Whether one has, what to speak of one who's seen your holy face or seen your holy form, even those who hear about, chant about, or simply remember you, at once become purified and are qualified to perform Vedic yagyas. So in this way, we understand that the process of chanting the holy name can transfer one from the position of whatever they may be to the position of someone who is qualified to perform Vedic yagyas. And there's another verse right after that. Aho bataswa tacho, aho bataswa, I'm forgetting it. Yajji the Gravar tate namatudyam te pustupaste jehuvu shashnuraya. Brahmanu Churnama Grinati Ete. And this verse is expressing that if you chant the holy name, you've already surpassed Tepus Tapaste, you've done all the tapas. Tepus Tapaste Juhuvu Shashnurarya, you've done all the fire yagas, you've taken all the sacred baths, and you've developed all the good qualities of the Aryans by practicing the process of chanting the holy name. So in this way, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta established that anybody, despite their birth, can become a Brahmana. And so this is also expressed by Sanatana Goswami in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, wherein he says that just as bell metal can be transferred into gold by alchemical process, a person of lower caste can be transferred into a perfect Brahmana by the process of Diksha. So this is a scriptural conclusion. Krishna, of course, says that it is by guna and karma that our caste or that our varna and ashram situation is decided, by quality and action. So anybody who, whether they're born in a Sudra family, if acting as a Brahmana, are a Brahmana, should be considered a Brahmana. So Bhaktisiddhanta presented this, and in this way he angered the Brahmanas, because they're on the bodily conception of life, and they want to feel better than others, which is the symptom of material life, FYI, that I want to feel better than another person. And so at a certain point they tried to kill him. At one point they tried to kill Bhaktisiddhanta in Vrindavan, but one of his disciples took his clothes, and he took the disciples' clothes. In this way, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur escaped. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur opened 64 temples, did immense spreading of Krishna consciousness. There's one story I heard about how at one point one man came in to the temple room, and there was a, Radha Krishna and Gauranga Thakur on the altar, and there was a printing press on the altar. And, the man was a little bewildered as to why there was a printing press on the altar, which I would be bewildered also. Bhaktisiddhanta was very firmly understood that this printing press, this Brihat Mridanga, this transcendental book distribution, is the means by which Krishna consciousness is going to be spread all over the world. And we see that today. How Prabhupada's books are changing lives day in, day out in the process of spreading these books. So it was on the on the symbol of the Gaudiya Math, one of the things there was a printing press. So after completing his vow of chanting And upon the death of his spiritual master and his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhakti Siddanta Saraswati, the great sadhu and saint, started the Gaudiya Math. And in starting the Gaudiya Math, he gave himself sannyas by placing a picture of his spiritual master and a picture of his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and initiated himself into the sannyas ashram. Not to be imitated, of course, but in this way he resurrected the Tridandi sannyas. And the sannyas that we see today in our ISKCON and in all the Gaudiya Maths and followers of the Gaudiya tradition, this is coming from Srila Bhakti Siddanta Saraswati. Because sannyas is a respectable position, and therefore one will hear from a sannyasi. Whereas previously, those entities whom had become renunciates in the process of Gaudiya Vaishnavism were generally Babajis. They would stay in Mayapur, Vrindavan, and they would chant Hare Krishna. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave this Tridandi Sannyas ashram wherein a person travels and preaches vehemently to spread Krishna consciousness. So I want to take a step back and focus on our Srila Prabhupada and how he spoke in regards to the teachings of his spiritual master. And in almost every lecture, if you go through, I was reading different lectures by Prabhupada in regards to his spiritual master. And in almost every lecture, Prabhupada makes this point that one should follow in the footsteps of the spiritual masters, of the previous acharyas, and in that way spread Krishna consciousness. Yasya deve para bhaktir yata devi tatagaro tasyarte katito yata I'm forgetting the verse. Yasya devi para bhaktir yata devi tatagaro tasyata katita yata prakasanta mahatmana. That one is able to understand all of the imports of the Vedas simply by pleasing the spiritual master and having faith in the Supreme Lord. So if one has implicit faith in the Lord and the spiritual master, one can gain realization. What is that faith in the spiritual master? That's faith in the order of the spiritual master. The order of the spiritual master is to spread Krishna consciousness, to preach Krishna consciousness, to do some seva in regard to the spreading of Krishna consciousness all over the world. And a temple that is not spreading Krishna consciousness is a dead temple. It really is a dead temple. And when you go to temples that are not really engaged in preaching, you feel that. You feel that deadness, that weight. But when you're at a temple that is dedicated to preaching Krishna consciousness, you feel live, you feel enlivened. Because the real life of Krishna consciousness is in spreading it, is in giving it to others. Yeah, if you chant your rounds, and if you follow the four regulative principles, good. That's good. It's really good. But what's important is that we do so many things out of love for Krishna. You know, we hear about if you just see Lord Jagannath in Rath Yatra, you're liberated. Or if you just chant the holy name one time, you're liberated. And, you know, there's a whole debate between Haridas Thakur and Gopal Chapala. Gopal Chakravarti. And, you know, Gopal Chakravarti is very angry because, and we've actually had debates like this ourselves with individuals where we say, oh, if you chant the holy name one time, sincerely, you're liberated. And they become very angry when they hear that because they do all this stuff. They go to the Himalayas and they meet all these yogis and they do breathing work and they're still full of anger and still full of envy and hate. And, you know, they're still engaged in so many bad habits, but they've done all these spiritual things. And you're telling me that if you just chant Hare Krishna one time, you can get liberated? We say yes. And so there was a debate that happened in which Bhakti Haridas Thakur expressed that, you know, if this isn't so, then my nose will fall off. And then the very next day, that guy got leprosy and his nose melted off. We had one guy who was hanging with the temple for a while, and we took him on a preaching trip. And he was a nice guy at first, but then we started expressing the philosophy. He was saying, you know, that's false advertising. He was growling at us. False advertising. He was actually growling. He was very angry. And then we somehow got into Putana, in which I said the verse, you know, Aho Bakiyam Stanaka Lakutam Jigham Shayapaya Rapyasadvi Bebegatinda Tritam Tatonyam Kamba Dialum Sharanam Brajam. I'm like trying to inspire him, like, oh, Krishna is so merciful that even he saved Putana. He was like, it's the worst. Like she hurt children. He was so angry. And it was like, I think you're chanting Hare Krishna, man. Calm down a little bit. So they're very puffed up in that way. But if we understand that liberation can come from such a simple thing for a Vaishnava, and it's described that a Vaishnava doesn't even want liberation. what's the verse? Salokya sharshti samipya sarupyai kraptamaptutaha dhyamanam nagrinati lebe dinamat sevanam janaha. That the 5 types of liberation are rejected from a Vaishnava if Vinamat Sevanam Janaha, if there's no seva to the servants of Krishna. If I can't become a servant of Krishna, I don't want liberation. So why do we do so many things? Why do we, do austerities? Why do we go the extra mile? Everything is done out of love for Krishna. Do whatever austerity you perform for Krishna. And not just for Krishna, so that you can get Krishna, but so that you can spread Krishna consciousness. That's what Krishna wants. That's what Lord Chaitanya wants. In this way, one actually expresses their love for Krishna. Then why does one live in a temple, wake up so early, and do all these things? Oh yeah, I'm already liberated. I had prasad from Jagannath Puri one time. Because we love Krishna, not because we want liberation. Because we love Krishna. And so in this way, we should understand that the order of the Guru Parampara is to spread this Krishna consciousness and take all risk, all responsibility, according to what Krishna gives us and our authorities and Krishna consciousness give us. Go out and spread Krishna consciousness. Do some practical service to work in Krishna consciousness. In this way, please the acharyas and gain the mercy from the parampara, and then you'll make progress. And so Prabhupada speaks of his own experience and how he was born in the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in his own words, Prabhupada says, but due to bad association and materialistic education, I became a follower of Gandhi. We know the story. Prabhupada was dragged by his friend Narend to the Uttaranga Junction temple, in which he was told that there's a great sadhu there. And Prabhupada was, I met so many sadhus. But he was dragged forcibly. And he came to Uttaranga Junction, which you can go. If you go to Kolkata, you go to our dearly beloved friend Chayaratna Prabhu's temple, they'll arrange for you to go to Uttaranga Junction and to see these places of Prabhupada's Leela. And so you can go there, and the whole building has been refurbished. It's quite amazing. And even the steps, those steps, they didn't even replaster them. They actually put a type of like lacquer on them to preserve them, so you can see the steps as Prabhupada saw them. And you can walk up those steps, and you can walk the upstairs of Uttaranga Junction, and you'll see Bhakti Siddanta Saraswati's room. And then you can go out onto the roof, and you can see exactly where this Leela took place. And it's a very wonderful experience to go to this temple, this place. And there's brahmacharis there that just stay there, and what an amazing place to serve. And, he met his guru, and he bowed down. And even before he was able to even stand up, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had ordered him to preach Krishna consciousness in the West. So, this is the importance that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was seeing in the spreading of Krishna consciousness. This was the level of importance he saw. We think that, so many things are important. We may argue or become, complain about so many things in our movement. And this is why there's, personal opinion, I suppose, but one of the reasons there's so many challenges in our movement is because people are forgetting the goal. They're forgetting that the goal is to spread Krishna consciousness. And if you're spreading Krishna consciousness, you don't really have time to think about this nonsense. Really, you don't have time for it. I don't have time to think about all this nonsense. I have service to do. I have a better place to be. If you always have Krishna on your mind, and you're always trying to spread Krishna consciousness, you always have a better place to be than the gossip circle or the stupid politics, things that happen, or to complain about this devotee or that devotee. You have better places to be than that, because I got to go do service. I got people to preach to. I was just told recently there was a certain devotee that was not devotee, but there was a personality criticizing me. And I was thinking, because I actually went ahead in a line. I went ahead in a line and I got criticized. But I was going in ahead in line to meet people and preach to them. And so this person is criticizing, but we're spreading Krishna consciousness. We're meeting people and preaching to them Krishna consciousness. So who gets the benefit? He who criticizes, or he who takes advantage of the preaching opportunity? So we don't have time for criticism. We don't have time for any of this if we simply focus on what actually matters, which is spreading Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada was very adamant about this in his lectures on the appearance day of his guru, that I was told by my guru to spread Krishna consciousness. I was told by my guru to do this, and simply by my guru's mercy, these things are going on. And so if we want the mercy, take the order of your guru, take the order of Srila Prabhupada on your head, make it your life and soul, and you'll become successful. Prabhupada was reading the shloka in the Bhagavad Gita, which says, Ekaya Kuru Nandana, wherein Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his purport, he says that one should take the order of his spiritual master as his life and soul. So if we don't take the order of our spiritual master as our life and soul, how can we become successful? How can we get the mercy? The answer is we don't get the mercy. We'll get some mercy. We don't get the Maha mercy. So you become so blissful when you actively try to spread Krishna consciousness. So people who are entities who are feeling that, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I'm getting up earlier, I'm doing this and that, they may feel like that and they may feel superior in so many ways, but the fact is that if they are running people off, first off, if you can't spread Krishna consciousness, don't run people away from Krishna consciousness. Please, but anyhow, if your attitude is that of criticism, people will leave. If your attitude is that of, this is it's a very kanishta level, focusing on this or that or this or that. No, go out and actually become friends with people. How do you become a friend with person? It doesn't mean I like football, you like football. It means that if I genuinely care about you, I want you to have Krishna consciousness, people will feel that. And by the order of our guru, our spiritual masters, and by the order of Prabhupada, we'll become empowered to do things which are completely beyond our capabilities. And that's a fact. And when we see that things are happening that shouldn't be happening, that we shouldn't be able to do, we'll understand that actually this is a magical process. This is a mystical movement. And Prabhu was speaking recently, said we have to join the Hare Krishna movement and spread Krishna consciousness. But I had also had a thought like that while I was in Mayapur. Actually, I was praying every day to Prabhupada in his samadhi, and I realized that there's two ISKCONs. There's the ISKCON we call ISKCON organization, so many things, bricks and mortar temples. And there's the ISKCON that's in the heart of those devotees who are reading Prabhupada's books, speaking Prabhupada's books, spreading Prabhupada's books, distributing Prabhupada's books, chanting Hare Krishna, following Prabhupada's instructions, offering prasad with love to Krishna. That's ISKCON. And if we don't connect to that, then we may just feel ourselves puffed up that I'm high-level religious personality. But in any case, that's the focus. That's the focus. Let us spread Krishna consciousness. Because that's the order of Bhakti Siddanta. That's the order of Srila Prabhupada. That's the order of the previous acharyas. And Prabhupada took all risk. Our Prabhupada took all risk to follow the order of his guru. He took all risk. He could have died so easily. He struggled so hard. So we should also follow in the footsteps. In this way, take risks for Krishna. Understanding that Krishna will protect us. And in this way, we can get the mercy of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And it's my experience that if you ever say prayers to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, they're very powerful and they're very effective. I've experienced that many times. Just seeing a picture, if you just meditate on the picture of Bhaktisiddhanta, you'll feel it, you get this mercy. It's quite amazing. So Prabhupada focused on that on the days of his guru's appearance, how his guru was so firm in opposing Mayavad philosophy and in opposing the philosophy of the Sahajas. So we have to also be firm and convinced. And how do we become convinced? We become convinced by reading the books of Prabhupada, our Prabhupada. We can become convinced in that way to oppose the nonsense philosophy. And we can become capable. So it's a serious thing to be a devotee and to follow the parampara. To take initiation means a serious thing. It means you're giving your life to your guru. So don't let it just be another religious ceremony. It's like we have so many, I grew up in the Catholic Church, there's so many ceremonies. You don't know what they mean. What does it mean? Oh yeah, I took confirmation, I took communion. No idea what that means. I just basically go about my life and have my own goals. There's no sense of surrender. I go to the church and I'm thinking I'm a good person. That's religion. That's nonsense. But actually, or you may come to the temple on Sunday, or this or that. But actually, the real religion is to serve Krishna, and the real way to serve Krishna, to serve Lord Chaitanya, is to spread Krishna consciousness. Arjuna was getting asked to fight, and we're getting asked to chant Hare Krishna and to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. Every town and village. In this way, liberate the land. This is what we're getting asked. So, if we just imagined how, if every devotee distributed a book a day, how many books would go out? If every devotee, like our Saraswati Prabhu, he distributes one Bhagavad Gita every day, at least. A Gita a day keeps Maya away, he says, his famous saying. So if every devotee just made some determination to distribute books or to tell people about Krishna, and then I'm not saying, like this is actually to please Krishna. It actually pleases Krishna. And how much we'll find ourselves so much happier. And when you go to temples, like especially you see in ISKCON, Silicon Valley, you see every devotee is just fired up to preach. Every devotee is fired up to spread Krishna consciousness. And they're getting the mercy, they're getting the bliss. And so we will also get the bliss if we act in such a way. Rather than just, I gotta get my rounds done, Prabhu. I can't, Prabhu. I got things to do. Just, I have my own plans now. And, it's funny, like people say, oh, I got to work, Prabhu. But the devotees in ISKCON Silicon Valley, they work way harder than most people. They're engineers of the topmost software engineers in the whole world. Yet they're distributing more books than every other temple in the U.S. How? Because they're dedicated. They understand the real goal of life. So we have to understand fully. And in this way, we'll lead others. We'll get the mercy. When we get the mercy, we inspire others to get mercy. So that's all I have to say for today. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Any comments or questions? Yes.
So sometimes when I hear these amazing pastimes of these amazing personalities that have done so much, I can't help but feel inspired. But at the same time, I feel like, wow, there's nothing I can do to come even close to this. And then sometimes I let that discourage me. And so how can I?
Well, we don't imitate, we follow in the footsteps. And so following the footsteps is different. And my personal realization in the terms of following the footsteps is you may see a devotee that really inspires you in a certain way. Like for instance, I feel very inspired by His Holiness Bhakti Swami. I feel immensely inspired by him. He used to chant minimum 40 rounds a day. He'd wake up at midnight and he would do immense things, immense service. And I feel also inspired by His Holiness Kadamba Swami, very deeply inspired by such a soul. Because they were great sadhakas. And they, so learned in reading and all these different activities. And we could feel inspired by devotees who are dedicated. I feel inspired by Parameshwara Prabhu's dedication to his service. But if I were to imitate, a devotee like Bhakti Swami, so I'm going to get up at midnight and try to chant 40 rounds. I can't do it. I wouldn't be able to do it. Or you may see it, even in our temple, you may see this devotee is inspiring. I'm going to try to imitate them. This is not the proper way. The proper way is to follow in the footsteps in terms that they're doing as much as they can and you should do as much as you can. And so if you understand that, then I may not be able to rise at 12, but I can rise at 2. And I can chant really good japa. And I can do deity seva, Kadamba Swami worshipped Govardhan Shila every day. I also feel, Krishna's mercy, I have opportunity to worship at Govardhan Shila every day. And so in that way, We may not do exactly what they're doing, but we can see in our own lives that by following the footsteps, by using that inspiration to go farther and push ourselves ahead, we'll do things we thought were completely impossible for us. And that's following the footsteps. And in that way, you become a great devotee. You're in your own greatness, not in the imitating someone else. You become great. You become a great soul. So do what you can, give your own contribution, but push yourself. Push yourself as hard as you can. That's what they're all doing. And if we do like that, then we'll inspire others and we'll do great things also. At least we'll see that we're doing things that we thought we were not able to do. And that's quite an amazing feeling, and that's the power of following the footsteps. No one's crossing the ocean and translating literatures like Srila Prabhupada. But there are so many wonderful devotees who have followed in Prabhupada's footsteps and who are great Vaishnavas in their own right. In their own right, they're great Vaishnavas. But how did they follow in the footsteps of Prabhupada? They took up the mission of Lord Chaitanya and Bhakti Siddanta Saraswati on their own heads, and they went forward with full steam and did what they can. And so if we just surrender to that principle, that I'm going to do everything I can to spread Krishna consciousness and to be a good devotee, then we'll go beyond and above what we're capable of. Anything else? Prabhu? Parameshwar Prabhu?
And you gotta go. This is a 2-second thing.
There's no breakfast, so.
And to take advantage of the book distribution is an incredible opportunity to make rapid advancement. Just so simple. Just move a few pages of paper to somebody else's hand. The progress you make just from doing that is profound. It's available to everybody. If anybody needs free books to distribute, okay, they live at the temple, let me know. I'll give them to you. Whatever. But do it. You got go across the street, go Goodwill, and just, here you go, sir. Take a book. Read it. No, simple. An invitation card. No, I wouldn't do an invitation card if they're bums, though, because you might get lawsuits.
Thank you very much. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Swami Maharaj ki.